This is the area. It's so nice. These are men who are working, men and women, uh, helping us to plant the trees.
Good day, everyone. I am Christine Rose Balayo, the co-project coordinator for the Permaculture Literacy Program here in the Philippines. So as you can see, I am surrounded by this very beautiful nature because we are here at the project location in Muntisunting, Carmen, Bohol, Philippines. The solution that we come up with is the Permaculture Literacy Project with the following goals. First is food security, health and well-being of the family, and the regenerative healing of the planet through the practice of permaculture. Also to mobilize critical mass of young people and families to advocate for holistic well-being of people and ecosystem restoration, and to raise 40 peace-loving environmental stewards and permaculture teachers. Successful and inspiring aspect of the project would be the heartfelt testimonies of our participants.
So very excited to know more about permaculture literacy because I think this is the concrete solution of our problems or environmental issues nowadays.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody who is on the call with us today from all over the world. It is an immense pleasure to be the moderator of this event today, hosted by the Women's Federation for World Peace International with our partners. I'm Shruti Lekha, a UN representative of Women's Federation for World Peace International in Geneva, and your moderator for today. The world knows that we need to work together, yet we find it difficult to overcome fundamental differences in worldviews and values. The climate crisis was one of the greatest challenges of our time, but it is also presents opportunities for profound acts of solidarity to take place. Through storytelling and interactive dialogue, WFWPI and Women's Federation Korea today will create a space that encourage the exploration of how we as women and girls can be empowered by leading the way in transcending obstacles of self-interest and fostering relationships of trust for the sake of the mutual goal of environmental healing in our communities. Today, we will identify approaches to overcoming differences and fostering trust in partnership through storytelling and sharing good practices. On that note, with no further ado, I welcome Mrs. Merle Balin to give us the introductory remarks. She serves as the Chief Administrative Officer and International Vice President of Women's Federation for World Peace International. She is a peace advocate with special focus on women, youth, family, and sustainable community development. Mrs. Balin has played an active role in the United Nations NGO community for the past 24 years and is the author of many programs, including the Permaculture Literacy Program in Cameroon, Bohol, and Philippines. Mrs. Balin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. Hello, everyone. Hello from New York. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. On behalf of the UN Office of Women's Federation for World Peace International, I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this special space where the intention is not only to listen, but to share collaboratively on this event's topic, which is building bridges, fostering mutual empowerment through environmental healing. This year's CSW priority theme is achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. Our event today aims to create a space that encourages the exploration of how we as women and girls can be empowered by leading the way in transcending obstacles of self-interest and fostering relationships of trust for the sake of mutual goal of environmental healing in our communities. Through this time that we share today, we hope to identify approaches to overcoming differences and fostering trust in partnerships through storytelling and sharing of good practices. The climate emergency is now our reality. But rather than viewing this existential threat as one that is bleak and contentious, we take these great challenges as opportunities to set aside our differences and work together for the sake of a greater cause. In 2021, the WFWPI Office for the UN Relations in New York had a great opportunity to fund 12 Giving for Good climate action projects in 11 countries. And through each of these projects, we have been able to see each community begin to build bridges between men and women, between government and civil society, as well as between planet and the people. Although WFWP Albania's Reduce, Recycle, Reuse, Recycle campaign began very locally, their campaign made waves in Albania's news station because they were able to build bridges among the elder and younger generation through their social media presence. In WFWP Brazil, through responding to the government's desire to find a solution to provide clean water in these riverside communities, we were able to provide 200 families with clean drinking water along the coast of the Amazon River. In Ghana, WFWP volunteers built partnerships with local NGOs and schools to show students and what sustainable practice looks like by creating art from waste. These projects' hope is that students can take this reuse and recycle mindset, shift with them back to their homes and their communities. From the environmental awareness campaign in Burkina Faso, the Reforestation Project in Zambia, to the Permaculture Literacy Program in the Philippines, we can see that there are initiatives around the world which are creating a wave of women empowering climate adaptation initiatives, building bridges of trust and collaboration for the sake of healing the earth. Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, the co-founder of WFWPI, stressed that today's problems cannot be solved by the masculine logic of power. Our present problems can only be solved by the feminine logic of love. WFWPI leads through this peace leadership paradigm based on feminine aspect of human nature. The realities of the climate emergency highlight just how vital a woman's role is on this road to a sustainable world. Women naturally play as nurturing leaders in their communities. Youth and women leadership, climate adaptation initiatives are therefore at the center of our projects for these coming years. What resonated with me deeply was the words of Dr. Patricia Espinosa, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, when she said, climate change policy doesn't start from the boardrooms. It starts in our homes and in our communities. Get involved at that level. Talk to others, convey the science, underline the urgency. That's according to Dr. Espinosa. As we hear the stories of young leaders, it is our hope that with new perspectives and fresh leadership paradigms, we can find our common base by practicing the universal principles while pursuing our universal rights to clean and healthy environment. We hope to identify the gaps, forge mutual understanding, and share best practices to technologies. As women leaders, mentors, and mothers, let us encourage each other, especially our young leaders, to go beyond the differences, our differences, and let us work together as one human family to heal our home, our planet Earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Marley Ballon. It is wonderful to hear your insights. As a warm welcome. Now I welcome Hyung John Lee from Mirai to give us the welcoming remarks on behalf of the team Mirai. Miss Lee's passion lies in helping people, especially children, who come from disadvantaged backgrounds and are unable to afford basic education. She spent a year volunteering for children in Germany and Nigeria after receiving her bachelor's degree in music composition. Ms. Lee studied U.S. legal studies at the University of Connecticut and is participating in educational programs to realize the dream of bringing equal opportunities and education for everyone. Ms. Lee, here, please.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to welcome you on behalf of team members. I am very pleased to meet you all. So Mirai is youth think tank of the Women Federation for World Peace Korea, consisting of youth in their 20s and 30s. The word Mirai is a Korean word for future. Therefore, the Mirai implies the expression the young generations are the key actors who should have a responsibility for the future and take the lead. As the protagonist of the future, the Mirai inherits Women Federation for World Peace vision to end the history of conflict and struggle on the Korean Pacific and achieve peace with the power of women, the source of true love, and with that, the Mirai aims to nurture peacemakers who can create a peaceful environment with positive influence. The climate crisis, the main theme of this year's Paris event, is a challenge that all humanity must overcome, regardless of nationality, age, or gender. In particular, the climate crisis is a problem that young generation will experience more directly and more frequently later in the future. Therefore, we believe that when we take the initiative to solve problems with a sense of ownership more than anyone else, we can bring the winds of change. We are all experiencing the climate crisis together. Therefore, the process of overcoming this crisis can become an opportunity to bridge people by bring them together to cooperate and form solidarity, thereby allowing them to understand each other's differences and learn to respect diversity, eventually leading to reconciliations. The first step toward solidarity and harmony begins with genuine communication. However, considering that the average age of the leaders of 130 countries who participated in the 26th UN Climate Change Conference was 60 and the number of female leaders among them was less than 10. It is obvious that there is overrepresentation of gender and generation. The most urgent reason for genuine representation and communication of gender and generation at the decision-making table regarding the climate crisis is that it is not gender neutral and repeats a vicious cycle of disadvantage. As climate change deepens, women and young people are exposed to vicious cycle of increased domestic work, reduced opportunities for education, lost jobs, reduced incomes, poor health, and exposure to violence. In order to solve the problems, Women's Federation for World Peace, Korea has provided educational opportunities to students through the Sonak Scholarship, sponsoring children's real projects such as Gaza I Dream and the 1% Love Share project, and nurturing future generations as peacemakers through various voluntary and humanitarian works. Yeah, Level Sunmyoung-moon and Level Hana-Moon, the co-founders of the Women's Federation for World Peace, said for the realization of world peace, an exemplary movement of true love of living for the sake of others should be carried out globally by following the will. The media want to become one step closer to solving the problem through an action plan that reaches out to the different levels of individual society and the government. To this day, we believe that each and every woman must first be empowered to fulfill their roles as a person and as equal members of the society. We plan to conduct a study group to empower the young generation and increase understanding between genders and generations. By so doing, an individual action can be the starting point to save the planet. In addition, we plan to a monthly action hashtag campaign through social media to raise the interest of the younger generation about the climate crisis and to raise a sense of ownership and responsibility. Next, in order to exhibit solidarity, the media plans to cooperate with various environmental, youth and women's groups to develop and operate educational programs and projects that can help women and youth become economically independent. We also plan on having joint webinars to share solutions, build consensus, and raise awareness to increase understanding of each other. Lastly, based on our achievement, we would aim for the adoption of government support projects and government policy recommendations. I was honored that the Women Federation for World Peace Korea's News 2030 project, the media could introduce how climate crisis can bridge the division between gender and generations and advance toward harmony and solidarity from the perspective of the younger generation. We look forward to seeing and learning through the storytelling that follows, for to more interaction with you and the free discussion later. Thank you very much once more.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee. It is now time for us to listen to some of the most inspiring and game-changing stories for climate sustainability and women's role in it, helping to bridge divides. On that note, please allow me to introduce to you Ms. Kefilwe Lepebe, who is bringing to you the first story of our event today. She is the coordinator of the Giving for Good Project International Cloth Nappy Climate Action Project. Ms. Lebebe is a South African living in Germany. Her passion lies in development, the environment, and helping to uplift the lives of others. She holds a bachelor's degree in economics and transport economics from the University of South Africa. Through the support of Women's Federation for World Peace Global Community, Ms. Lepebe was inspired to initiate a project that would uplift the lives of others while spreading the message of peace. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Shruti. Greetings to all members and guests present here today. Today's theme really speaks to what our project was all about: building bridges by fostering mutual empowerment through healing. And for those of us coming from developing countries, we know that topics such as the environment are seen as first world problems where people have enough money to spend on hobbies. In Limpopo, South Africa, it's mainly rural and one of the poorest regions in the countries. Although the rural areas are generally less polluted, they lack basic services and sanitation. And when one is living in poverty, environmental conservation seems like a luxury. This means that we had to be creative in how we introduce the subject. We got our inspiration from the Environmental Global Committee, which helped our team to connect with the vision of Women Federation for World Peace. From there, we were armed with enough information to engage environmental experts in our community. Thereon, we connected with Queen Clara Dikgale of Radikgale Villages. Our team consisted of an environmental company and an academic expert. We did a feasibility study in the village and we interviewed various leaders, healthcare workers, daycare leaders, etc. And from there, we were able to determine that the cloth nappy project could do well. It is important that we take in the perspective of the communities that we want to help. For example, Queen Dikgale explained that they've had different short-term projects without continuity, and this affected the way people participated in subsequent projects. So some organizations come, they do wonderful work for a few months, but they leave the villages ill-equipped to continue. So we had to be different in our approach in order to gain the people's trust. With cloth nappy waste being the biggest land, visual, and water pollutant in rural areas, we decided to start with this project because it would bring a visible difference. After we consulted with our partner C&C4C, we decided that the main goal of the project was to bring dignity to women and families. We have families whose babies go without diapers for days on end, or some families potty train their babies too soon, which can cause incontinence and bedwetting, and this affects the dignity of the child later in life. One challenge that we have is that cloth diapers are associated with poverty, so we had to be sensitive in our approach and educate women on all advantages. South African government clinics offer free prenatal and postnatal classes for mothers, and fortunately, the head of the clinic agreed to promote the use of cloth diapers. Financially, mothers can save up to 90% of disposable nappy costs. In Limpopo, tribal leaders are the backbone of society and are generally trusted by communities. So Queen Dikgale called women leaders to educate them on cloth diapers. She also introduced us as Women Federation for World Peace and educated us on the right protocols to observe. And from there, Women Federation for World Peace was fully welcomed. Our grant was approved in July last year, but we had delays in starting due to COVID restrictions. We partnered with a local NGO called C&C4C, which had already helped hundreds of families across the country, and through their experience, we were able to avoid many first-time mistakes. Financially, we also benefited as they led us to the best price suppliers who gave us discounts because of our relationship with C&C4C. We had two seamstresses who started work right away and produced good quality cloth diapers. By the end of the project, the ladies were learning how to make more sophisticated patterns. Our seamstresses understood the goals of the project and took ownership. Through them, we were able to reach many women as they understood the community better. Our work was to give them a sense of continuity, and Women Federation project members contributed to their stipends, while Queen and Chief Dikgale provided the working premises and electricity. And after a month of starting the project, we were then ready to distribute. Our target was mothers who were already purchasing disposable diapers and also to donate to those who were in extreme poverty. We did not want to do a giveaway because it was not financially sustainable, and also free products are generally not valued. And when we had our celebratory project launch, we started with a clean-up campaign of the disposable nappy pollution. Male and female community leaders were also called and introduced to our project so that they could promote cloth nappies in their community. What we learned is not to rush. It's important to be on the same pace as the community. We also learned the importance of mutual partnerships. And although it was not easy, we found partners who shared our vision and were also looking for an organization like ours. They wanted to give and were looking for a safe platform to do so. Respect goes a long way, especially in Africa. We had to make sure that we present ourselves as an organization that empowers instead of just giving away, which is why at the official end of the project, we were able to hand over the project to Queen Dikgali and her people. They were overjoyed and they expressed that they never worked with an organization that showed the financial transparency that we did. And based on that, they knew that we were not trying to take advantage of them. Handing over the project does not mean dissociation. Women Federation is still there to advise, help raise funds, and assist. One example is that the market in the immediate vicinity is becoming saturated, so we as Women Federation are needed to market the product wider. Another achievement is that our partner, CNC4C, has agreed to take on our seamstresses as suppliers for their NGO. This is guaranteed employment for the two ladies who supported our vision, and with this, new overlockers are needed so that the product can have a more professional finish. This will also help the ladies to diversify their products. For example, they can make sanitary pads, which will help young girls stay in school during their time of the month. And when we evaluated, we found that young mothers don't want to wash nappies. But I think if they understood the time value of money better, they would respond more positively. Our project was a success, thanks to all the stakeholders who took responsibility and poured their love into maintaining the dignity of women. And before I finish, I just want to share a few pictures from our project. So this is on the day of the project launch. Early in the morning, we had women in the community going to clean, and you can see that a lot of the waste, the white there, is disposable nappies. And then here is our team. This picture was taken on the training day. On the right is Queen Clara Dikgali. And in the front, it's our partners, CNC4C. And behind them is Women Federation for World Peace members, as well as the seamstresses. And then this is a video here. This is our ladies at work. They worked very, very hard. They were passionate. And I think they inspired all of us and they gave us encouragement. And then here on the left, we have the waterproof, which is the outer cover for the babies. And then on the right, you have the flats, the cotton flats. And here in the bottom, this is the cotton insert that the baby wears underneath the waterproof. And here at the center, we have a video of the babies, and this is where the moms are explaining that their babies no longer suffer from nappy rash ever since switching to cloth nappies. Thank you very much for listening to me. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much. This is such a sweet project. Also, at the same time, it is very, very inspiring, and such small issues that we hardly notice at a huge level does contribute just contribute a lot to environmental sustainability. So thank you so much for your work. And now we would like to open a short session of question and answers with our speaker here on this specific project. So if anybody from the audience would like to ask questions to our speaker about this project, please raise your hand or leave your question in the chat so we can engage in a short discussion. Anybody with questions or even comments? So I think we have Eleanor Flowers.
Yeah. Actually, I was quite impressed by this, actually, but when you look at the very, like, looks good quality, for example, the over things that go over the nappies, it looks like it's actually more expensive in a way. When you see, it looks quite quality, such a presentation with these special, it's quite impressive. And then I wonder, is it then, perhaps more expensive, even though you tell me it actually works out more economically. When I look at them, I mean, I could see the basic pads, that they were very good. When you look, they have a couple of extra things as well. It looks as if it's more than when you just put on a simple Tainer brook or something, or a nappy brook. You know, there's 2 or 3 things involved, and compared to the modern thing of just pulling something on. You know, you just put on a panty now with the modern ones. It's just a comment,
Yes. So maybe, would you like to explain to us how it was actually very economically sustainable for women and mothers? Yes.
Oh, yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you for your question, Eleanor. So, yes, in the very short, immediate term, it's definitely more expensive, because when you look at a mom buying, they might be buying on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. But in the long term, from birth to potty training, moms would save up to 90% of the costs. And even now, what we find is that the moms in the rural areas would not have money to purchase the entire stash immediately, so they buy bit by bit. And then, as you were saying right now, that it looks like there's a lot of things involved. That is not the experience of moms. So, for example, for the small babies, you saw something that looked like little shorts. So you would have a baby wear that and put the waterproof on top. Alternatively, when the baby is a little bit bigger, they could use the more rectangular cotton cloths as well, where when the baby uses it, they can just remove it, and then they also use another one. And what we do, we encourage moms, when mothers have the full stash of nappies, they have it in such a way that they would not run out within like a couple of days, or everything is used up at once. But I hope I've answered all your. Oh, there was another one. Yes, we have to produce good quality products. And for example, one of the ladies in the NGO that was guiding us, she has a baby, and her baby is something like number 10 in line, using nappies that were used for other babies. So yes, it is important that we produce good quality. Thanks. I hope I've answered you.
Thank you so much. Very important aspect of the project. So anybody else, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Yes, Miss Eleanor, please. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, yeah. And when they have to wash these things, because also that's a machine, when you get something that's, really poopy, okay, they would need, I don't know if they just solve it by washing it in ordinary water or in the river, or, when something is really dirty, a nappy, or whether they have wash machines, and that a wash machine is also an expense. That's also something expensive to have a machine, unless it's a communal wash machine. I'm just wondering, perhaps it's quite simple that they can just rinse them out immediately and get them in a clean standard, because it's good quality material and they can easily get them clean, because they can also stain it. I'm just sort of, so then if you want something that really does the job, you've got to have a good quality cleaning agent. That's it. I'm just pursuing it. That's all I have to say now.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you so much for your questions, Eleanor, because we then get to talk about other important aspects. So in the world of cloth nappies, there's a wide variety ranging from ones that need to be hand washed all the way to fabrics that need to be machine washed. And what we were doing in the project is, because we're focusing on rural women who do not have this, and there's also water shortages, very little water is needed. So during let me just say, the training or the introduction, the ladies, we also advise them to buy a bar of a soap called Sunlight from South Africa, and they mix it with water and turn it into a gel. And then in terms of the cloth nappies, they can rinse them out. For example, with the rinsing out process, you can use bath water to rinse out, and then from there you would need very little water to do the actual washing. And then the fabric that we're also using for this specific project, or for women in rural areas, is the kind of fabric that can easily air dry. I hope I've answered you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just feel like I would just like add to this thing as a comment from my point of view as well, because the cloth nappy is something which has been very sustainable, not just in many developing countries. For example, I am from India, and in India as well, we use cloth nappies like since so many generations, and now recently many families have adopted to these diapers, which is still something many traditional families don't use. And in many developing countries, people cannot afford a washing machine in general, so they do all the washing, everything with their hands and under a tap. So that's that tap of water. That is the normal lives of many people in developing and least developed countries. So I think it is in general something very usual for such communities to handle with. And yes, thank you so much. And any other questions? We also encourage questions in other languages. You could ask the question in other languages. We have interpreters here, so we will try interpreting it. Okay, so seeing that we have no more questions, Ms. Lepebe, do you have like a final remark? You would like to say something?
Yes, I would like to encourage everybody here to encourage women in their countries to use cloth nappies. There's a wide variety that is suitable for all sorts of lifestyle and economic situations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you. On that note, it has been such an inspiring start to listening to such a story. It's an amazing initiative. Now, please allow me to introduce to you and welcome Miss Christine and Mr. Dale from Philippines. the coordinators of our Giving for Good project from Philippines. Ms. Christine Bulayo is a Regional Secretary General for Women's Federation for World Peace Asia Pacific and is a senior high and college instructor who is serving as the Governor General for 10K Heroes United, a youth implementing arm of the WFWP that focuses on climate action initiatives and raising peace-loving global leaders. She joined leadership training in Korea and in the Philippines. She is a youth, environment, and pure love advocate, and we're very happy to have her. Along with her, Mr. Dale, he currently serves as the project manager of the Permaculture Literacy Project Program. In 2016, Dale served as the Secretary General of a youth ministry and spearheaded the first Earthkeepers Summit, centering on the planet's restoration. In 2018 to 20, he extensively traveled within the country and abroad for leadership training and youth empowerment. We're happy to welcome both our speakers to share their story on our project, on our second project for today. Please, the floor is yours.
Greetings from Bohol, Philippines. What a wonderful Monday to be here with all of you in this parallel event of CSW 66. I am Christine, and with me is Dale, and we are the co-project managers of the WFWP Permaculture Literacy Program here in the Philippines.
Hi everyone! It is incredible to finally meet you here in this platform. By the way, I am Dale, and my gratitude is boundless as I extend this to the organizers of today's event, the WFWP IUN office and the WFWP Korea for inviting me and Christine.
Yes, a million thanks to the WFWP IUN office and WFWP Korea for this humbling opportunity. Having said that, I am thrilled to share before all of you the things that keep us jumping out of our beds every morning.
Well, you know what, Christine, a couple of years ago, I had a friend who had this extreme motion sickness, and when the car pulled over, signaling our arrival at the project site, he nauseously jumped out with beads of cold sweat rolling down his face and neck. So imagine that. After several minutes, I saw him again inside the wooden house where we were staying. And this time, he was calmer, and the sunset lights overshadowed his face. And he quietly sat on a bamboo chair, his gaze far in the horizon from the window.
I know who that was, so let me continue the narrative as I was also there. At the distance, in the mirror's reflection, I vividly saw his female friend who hurriedly gave him lukewarm water to drink, and then the sunset views painted half of their individual faces, and as the cold wind breezed through the room, I stood up and then take off my jacket, and as I walked in their direction, I overheard what they were talking about. So it was as if the wind carried their soft yet clear conversations to my ears.
Yes, and that friend, my friend, he has a cup in his right hand, and he was still sitting on the bamboo chair. But I noticed that his seat was acutely angled to that girl, and the girl remained standing, her arms hanging loosely, and her left hand resting over her other hand. And I also overheard their conversation. And he said, "This could be the Garden of Eden that I read in the scriptures," referring to the dense forest he saw afar from the window and the ecosystems that work within and inside of it.
And she replied, "Who knows?" So with this undisturbed ambience of this place, for sure, it is the best, if not perfect, manifestation of the Garden of Eden years ago. However, the next day when we all went together to shop for food in the nearest marketplace, we saw the harsh reality of the planet. So from irresponsible human behavior that negatively affected the climate, to the continuous rise of the province poverty incidents.
And talking about poverty incidents, fast forward this year, according to the Provincial Office of the Agriculturist, there are 700,000 families that are stuck in their lands without common plans. And that is a whooping 50.62% of the population. And in 2021, Bohol has reported that 26.02% of households are below the food threshold, compared to 2018's 21.20%. And this clearly shows that the poverty incidence of the island province of Bohol has been amplified by climate change.
And also, on a very important note, these issues cascade down deeply to the communities, especially those which are marginalized and in the far-flung regions. Just like the typhoon which we recently experienced here in Bohol, we can say that it is more destructive than war, and because within just a few hours, so everything on its path was demolished. Structures, systems, utilities, and all of us are under the force of nature. So we are really under nature's mercy. So we saw and experienced as we went around our place in Bohol doing relief operations. So the suffering and destruction that the typhoon caused, that the climate change has brought, are really, we need solutions. So solutions to these issues are urgent. So we are in an emergency crisis. Climate change is a reality. Food insecurity is real, and the generation of the planet caused by humans' disconnection from nature is very real. So out of these pressing issues that are reflected in our community, up until this very minute, we envision the Permaculture Literacy Program, which is a climate adaptation initiative to ramp up the urgency to food security and regenerative healing of the planet.
Yeah, so let me add. So according to the Human Rights Council Resolution number 4813, the Human Rights Council recognized for the first time that having a safe, clean, and healthy and sustainable environment is indeed a human right, and called on the states to work together and with other partners to implement this newly recognized right. Also, according to the UN Environment Program, the recognition of the right to a healthy environment at the global level will support efforts to address environmental crisis in a more coordinated, effective, and non-discriminatory manner. And that will also help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in providing stronger protection of our rights and of the people defending the environment, and help create a world where people can live in harmony with nature. So we see the Permaculture Literacy Program as a model in helping people in our community on strengthening resilience and enhancing adaptive climate capacity. Permaculture in general is more than an agricultural practice. It is more on a way of thinking, like knowing nature, being one with nature, and working with nature, not against nature. So this is our way to build our own garden of Eden.
Yes, so our original goal was to raise leaders of heart and character, and to mobilize a critical mass of young people and families to advocate for the holistic well-being of people, and ecosystem restoration and food security, and the regenerative healing of the planet through the practice of permaculture. So we came up with this goal because there is a lot of young people who understand the linkage between these climate issues and the management of the environment. And in our settings, permaculture seems to be the right answer. So young people are not attracted to a career in agriculture because for them it's old, and for them it's only for the farmers. But permaculture presents a new inspiration, motivation, and excitement in young people. So we want to educate 40 youth leaders to lead the way to promote permaculture so that we can make Bohol a permaculture leadership incubator. So Bohol to be a training hub for youth leaders to be inspired, yes, and exactly in implementing small-scale permaculture projects in their communities, and even introducing new mindsets to the farmers, introducing small-scale permaculture gardening or farming systems which can be done even in their own backyards and small farms. So in October 2019, we launched our Project Hope, Permaculture Peace Garden at Montisanting Carmen, Bohol, Philippines. So this place is also our project site. So currently, we have established the core officers for 10,000 Heroes United, a youth implementing arm of WFWP, which was established in 2016.
And more so, we are 90%
Yes.
complete with the construction of our permaculture training center or hub. But due to the super typhoon Rai, the construction slowed down. Last year, we consulted with key permaculture practitioners and visited permaculture sites here in Bohol. And this month, we had initial talks with the founders of the Regenesis project with their 20 years of permaculture practice, and plans for collaboration are in the way for the conduct of our permaculture training. We are now on phase 1 out of 3 phases, and by the end of this month, we will be having our training. And by the second half of this year, which is summertime, we will have an internship with our permaculture experts. And by the end of this year, our goal is to implement permaculture backyard gardening and farming to 12 families in our project site and award the most exemplary permaculture garden or farm. In percentage, we are on 30%, yet for us, it is already a great progress. For permaculture, surely takes time to roll.
Exactly. So personally, I am a wanderer. I really like to travel. And for this program, it let me realize that I can spend my whole life traveling around the world searching for the Garden of Eden, or I can create one in my own backyard. So the garden that we want to create in the community is small scale. So it is designed in a way that it's balanced and it can create in itself its own sustainable ecosystem that mimics the ecosystem of the forest. So in the forest, we can see that the animals, the plants, the insects, they coexist naturally without external intervention. So both predators and beneficiaries in the ecosystem are balanced and regenerative. So permaculture as well can be done even if you have a very small space. So you can integrate the design and movement of the wind, the existing water formation, the land formation, and the plants according to the existing movement of these elements. So as long as we can follow this system, we can create our own permaculture garden.
Now, if you ask me, for me, permaculture, it centers on nature, and nature is the best teacher when it comes to permaculture point of view. Long before all these technological advancements, nature has the perfect way, right, of creating this balance and restoring what is lost. In other words, nature is self-sustaining, nature is self-regulating. And this project is a great equalizer to all, regardless of creed, origin, age, or gender. And I believe that by default, we have this utmost appreciation for Mother Earth, which is imprinted in the very strands of our own DNA. And that is the reason why each one of us really wants to commune with nature. And our love and our strong sense of preservation of the planet, our home, is embedded in our own being. And through permaculture, men and women are partners to the planet's regenerative healing. And when we do things in line with nature's principles, neutral space where men and women can learn to harmonize. It is, yes, that's right. And it is our prime responsibility to take care of the planet, because long before, we are already part of the creation.
True. So imagine when young people or youth leaders such as SK here in our place will lead the way in creating a peace garden in their own community, or in their homes, or in vacant lots, and transform it into a permaculture design communal peace garden where it will be the center of education and inspire young people where they can find their original relationship with nature, their inner healing and peace, where they can return to the Garden of Eden. So Permaculture Peace Garden will not just be a garden for food, but a garden for healing. So all of this are possible as long as we have youth leaders who can lead the way. That's why the 10K Heroes United is established with its goal relating to young people's character development, and by letting them experience what we have experienced in our small-scale project site in the Yojong Peace Garden, and inspiring them so that it can be replicated in their own barangay, or should we say their own community.
Yeah, that's right. And also with this project, we are in the process of working with stakeholders. So in the next 2 years, we can institutionalize a permaculture literacy program for our local government units, and technical education and skills development authorities. In this way, the policymakers, the people as clientele, and the NGOs as partners can work through a singular vision and mission. And there is power in unity and in the things that we do for others, especially our planet. We are in this together, and we are not just building beams of hope and pillars of service in our respective communities. We ourselves are the bridges.
So permaculture is the linchpin that links character and leadership development, food security, health and well-being, and ecosystem restoration. So with this system and initiative in place, we can say that every child, all men and women, will enjoy the human and universal right to a clean and healthy environment.
And having that said, you know guys, the two friends in the story are not just my friends, nor Christine's. They are your friends. We are your friends in this endeavor, because those two friends in the story are us.
Yes, it was us. So our story could be your story too. So you can reach us through our email, so www.chapter@gmail.com and 10khunited@gmail.com, or through our FB pages, WFWB Bohol and 10K Heroes United. So we will also send the link to the chat box. And join us, and together we can heal the world faster. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a nice story, through a nice storytelling. And it has been really nice listening to how important the nature is in our existence, which we often forget with all the busy commitments and the world and the way the world runs. Now let us have a short discussion, a short Q&A session with our speakers. So anybody wishing to ask any questions or any comments, any thoughts to our speakers, you're more welcome. Please raise your hand or drop the message in the chat. So we already have a question from our other speaker. The question is from Lepebe. So she says, she asks, have they started working in the urban areas? If yes, how to convince busy urban people to take on permaculture? Christine and Dale, would you like to answer?
Everyone, I am Christine. I am the co-project manager of the Permaculture Literacy program here in the Philippines, and with me is Dale. So in the context of our project site here in Bohol, Philippines, yes, we have started our permaculture program here in our province, which is a small-scale project site. So in order to attract attention, we try to really raise these young leaders who can become permaculture incubators here in the Philippines. So through this, we can give new inspiration and motivation to young people, because for us, permaculture is not just sustainable. Permaculture is more than just sustaining or maintaining life. Permaculture is regenerative. Regenerative means to regrow. So permaculture gives life. It gives life in a way that it recreates and it continues life. And I know that my partner here wants to add something about that.
It is more of our way of thinking, our observance of how nature works. And if you happen to live in the urban areas, actually, we are in a series of consultations nowadays this week together with our permaculture experts, and we're also planning to expand this to urban areas. And if you follow us closely to this project, then we can give you updates on that.
Yes, and also I would like to emphasize that
permaculture can be done even in your own backyard. So we can make a small scale permaculture garden. So we need just to integrate the existing wind, land formation, water formation, and plants, and integrate it according to how these elements move. So through this, and if we follow this existing system, we can really make our own permaculture garden, even in our own backyard. So I guess that's from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I think the green cities are something which many, even governments, are very interested in working with the future. Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? We see a lot of comments saying very inspiring to see young people taking up the challenge to heal the future, to heal the universe, truly the future. So this is amazing. There are a lot of positive comments, but any questions in specific? I have one single question maybe to add. Did you face any difficulties in implementing this project or to collect interest, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so upon implementing this permaculture program, of course, challenges, but one major challenge that we encountered was that we observed that young people are not really interested in gardening or farming, because for them it is old and it's only for the, should I say, old people and for the farmers. But we wanted to really put in their minds that permaculture can be done no matter what your age is. So permaculture is something that we can enjoy. For example, now we are working on creating this peace garden. And through this peace garden, it can be a center for education and inspiration for young people. Because we know that working with nature, it brings us joy and calmness, which gives us this very positive energy, which is originally a part of us. And we observe that if in this peace garden, whenever you feel tired or stressed, you can just visit this peace garden. So this permaculture peace garden for us is not just a garden for food, but of course a garden of Eden, or a garden for healing, wherein we can regain our relationship with nature and to again spend time with what they said, a garden of Eden.
Also, another challenge and experts to really help us to get this project rolling. Very serious. So we want to move heaven and earth to really find these right people, these elders who will guide us in implementing this kind of project. And since our hearts are burning with passion and commitment, with the help of heaven, we have known and we have met personally and talked to them, our permaculture experts and teachers. And also, we are very amazed by their story, by their, journey, and as what Christine mentioned, the challenge among young people, the uninterest. Some of the young people, we really permaculture sides of these experts. From then on, their minds were awakened, just like the brains. It really, according to them,
Dea, would it be possible if you speak a little bit louder, maybe because of the distance, we weren't able to hear the last few sentences.
So actually, young people that Christy mentioned that have shown no interest at all in this permaculture, we bring them to the permaculture sites and we listen to the testimonies of our permaculture experts. And from then on, their minds were open, just like how the season of spring lingers in our being, in our DNA. And they said that permaculture is really the perfect way to to combat this climate change, this problem that we are facing. Yeah.
That's why we are really very grateful, especially to the WPI UN office and all of our sponsors for allowing us to really implement this permaculture literacy program here in our project site in the Philippines.
That's great. That is great. And I think we had a similar question from one of our participant here from Korea. The participant says, hello, I enjoyed listening to the impressive presentation. Thank you. I am also someone who thinks permaculture is very important. I wonder how they will spread this permaculture to young Koreans. So in Korea, land is so expensive that it is difficult to afford your own house, especially in the case of young people. They do not have enough time to spare as well as financial freedom. In this situation, it seems difficult to educate young people on permaculture and do it again. Then I wonder if there is a way for young Koreans to participate permaculture. And I think this is something which our speakers tried answering in the earlier question. But if you have something to add, would you like to add, or is that all?
Yes, we would like to add maybe a little bit of information. Well, for us, we are building this 10,000 Heroes United, which is a youth implementing arm of WFWE. So we are now institutionalizing this organization, especially our permaculture literacy program, in order for this program to be applied also to different parts of the world. So we will be really willing to share this idea. And of course, the most important is really partnership, because we know that we cannot really work alone. We need to work together, just like how me and Kuya Dale are working together, and how our sponsors and how our permaculture experts are working together. Yeah, we understand that there are a lot of resources that we do not have. But just like what we said earlier, permaculture is not it's not mainly a big picture. Permaculture can be small scale, meaning it can be made even in your own backyard, even if you don't have land. Just like Ate Yani, if everybody knows, who was our speaker during the Spring Awakening. She was living in Singapore and yet she don't have land there, but every day she is implementing this permaculture way of thinking. So we can truly say that permaculture can really be done in small scale.
Also, in relation to that, we really recognize in this kind of project, especially to Republic of Korea, where our said that it is the land is expensive and it's impossible to have this kind of space to do permaculture. I really think that if we really think just a little outside of the box, then we can really make that space be realized or materialized before our very own eyes. So one of our recommendations is to really reach out to our local government. For example, the office of the provincial agriculture. If your country happens to have that one, then you can talk to our elected government officials or youth volunteers or organizations that are doing the same parallel kind of advocacy. And from there, communications and open dialogue can happen. And I believe that that space can really be provided to the one who really wants to do permaculture.
I'm really happy to hear this kind of questions because I can somewhat relate. Because when we first hearing about permaculture, this question also popped out into our head. But as we go on implementing this permaculture literacy program, little by little we came to meet in order to do this program even in cities like our participants. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. I think with this, I will maybe it is good that we conclude our discussion for this specific story, and let us have enter into a good practices dialogue. The main aim of this event was to hear stories and to engage in dialogue where we share and learn good practices from different parts of the world for environmental sustainability by building bridges. And today, now it is our time to share such stories and to learn and listen and learn from each other. So if there is anybody from the audience who would like to share their stories, would like to ask questions or any thoughts, just engage in this dialogue with us on how we can build bridges for environmental sustainability, just like many of the initiatives our speakers have mentioned and shared with us today. So any good practice, it does not have to be something which you are working in, but you are aware of, or even you think is very crucial for building bridges. Any participant from the speakers, and also the speakers, you're also very much welcome to address us with your thoughts other than what just you mentioned. Anybody, you can raise your hand, or you can just leave a message in the chat box. I think there was one question from Hong, who says that who asks a question. It is regarding permaculture. And I think it's a very important question of how there is a difference that we need to bridge between developed and developing countries. So the question goes as, how can permaculture be applied to developed and developing countries? And what is the difference between permaculture in developing and developed countries? So I think this is a huge divide, and maybe this is something which we can hear from. Even if there's an understanding other than the speakers, please raise your hand, and we would like to listen from your perspectives as well. But maybe we can ask Christine and Dale first what they think, and we will have a nice discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So we would like to check if we are audible to everybody. Is our voices clear? So for that question, are there differences between developing or developed countries? For us, permaculture is also a universal principle. So this kind of knowledge that we have can be applied no matter what places you have or no matter what culture you have. So first thing that we needed to do is to really learn what really permaculture is. Because now I can see that everybody is curious about what permaculture is, and we are visioning about this really wide and big scope. But I would like to reiterate what I was saying earlier, that permaculture is something that we make an ecosystem that is sustainable. So for example, we make this garden which can in itself create its own ecosystem, like the ecosystem in the forest. Because in the forest, we can see that the plants, the animals, and the insects, they coexist naturally with the external intervention. So permaculture is just like that. It is sustainable in a way that we will be observing the movement of the wind, the land formation in your area, the water system that you have, and including the plants that grow in your area. And with that system in mind, observing these movements of the elements, the original movement, we can say that we can really practice permaculture. So if we wanted to really learn more, permaculture really is, should I say, is it takes time to really learn and to really put it in your mind and in your heart. Just like us, yes, we started implementing this in our places, but we are also learning every day. That's why we have these permaculture experts guiding us, and every day we are also growing. And if in the future we can learn more, we would really be happy to share this to all of you. So, what I would like to say now is please be with us in our journey as we really try to work with nature and to really learn more about nature. So, Kede, you
Maybe the differences of the developing and developed countries are just a slight percentage compared to the similarities. So when we're talking about the external factors like our land formation, about our the challenges that is brought by industrialization of our respective countries, those factors are just small differences. But what really that binds us together in this project is our permaculture way of thinking. And I highly suggest that if you really want to have this kind of permaculture way of thinking, I highly suggest that when it rains in your region or in your country, you can observe where does the water flows. And you can also observe the direction of your wind in a specific time or day. And you can also measure your humidity. And you can also go a little bit deeper in researching what type of soil you are currently standing on. And you know, permaculture is not that fixated. Permaculture is really flexible because nature has its so many myriad ways of um, making our planet or making our plants grow. So yeah.
so in short term, let's be sensitive with our nature. So let's work with nature and let's not work against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is a nice trick to also observe. I think many of us just love rain and never discover where it comes, where it goes, and what we do with it. So thank you. And yes, Mrs. Brolin, you have raised your hand, so please.
Thank you, Shruti. I'd like to just add a little bit of what Christine and Dale already answered, giving context to what is it like to practice permaculture in the city. Right now, I am living in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's a very urban area. And I would love to practice permaculture in the way that is originally intended with that big space, but I don't have it. But what I do is I think of where does the sun rise, the east part, and where can I plant a tree, or where can I put my plant growing indoor. I grow sweet potatoes inside my house, and composting the waste product from grocery waste product, food waste, putting it together, making a compost tea for as a fertilizer, or trying to save energy, trying to save electricity bill by planting a tree close to the window so that during the afternoon where the sun is very strong against the window, we can make a shade cooler. So it's like that. Permaculture is, it doesn't apply just in rural areas or mimicking the ecosystem of the forest, but your house, the roof, the it's like feng shui also in Chinese, like designing your house and adjusting to your lifestyle, to the way how we should relate with nature. It's like being sensitive to nature. And Yeah, that's how I find myself more and more practicing permaculture. I'm not quite there yet, but I find it helping my inner being becoming more sensitive to nature. And so I guess, that's the best way for us to help in healing our planet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I think these are ways that we can still find our way to nature and way back as well, even when we live in very urban and industrialized world. Thank you so much. And I also see messages in the chat saying that they're from Wasana Ketlan, who says we do project cleaning day from our local community in the USA. I think these kind of practices, good practices, are something which we would love to hear. If Vasana, you would like to say something, it would be really nice if you can just raise your hand so you can say something. Would you like to share your story?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for very nice project. And actually I work with young people at USA local Washington DC, and then just have opportunity to join Asian side, and then actually we have a project from us that the mayor, they accept to be like a tradition that every time in this year we have to do cleaning, with students, with young people, and they're so much involved, so much excited. Even the teacher, they allow them to come to join us. Organization, we need mayor, and then police come to involve everything to give them, empower them to see see the importance that protection nature and cleaning, and then we empower them to learn how to love clean, right? Because new generation, they're not easy to. Of course, they have culture that you have to throw trash. That each culture different, but that one to put in their heart, they're so excited to join us to be project generation and generation. That we start like 5 years already to be. Now we try to spending more to our headquarters. We try to make it more spending to grow and empower young people to see how living for sake of others so important, that they grow. Yeah. That's little testimony. Thank you to give me opportunity to share.
Oh, thank you so much. That is really, really important. I think pollution is a really big part of our climate's. I mean, it's an obstacle to climate sustainability, and I think everybody has to do their part of cleaning for the society, not just if you keep your home clean, but also your society clean. So thank you so much, and that's wonderful to hear. And I think if it's possible in Washington DC, I think it should be possible in all big cities and places, and I'm sure there are a lot of such projects happening. Thank you. And yes, we have Lebebe. So would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you. I must say, every time I hear about permaculture, I'm blown away. And so thank you, Christine and Dale. What I'm interested in is that I'm going to really follow your journey, because I'm interested in how you're going to break through in the urban areas. So, for example, in South Africa, anything to do with nature is associated with poverty. So one example is that a few generations ago, people were planting crops. They had little meat, but they had a very, very balanced diet. And then nowadays, when somebody's working, they will say, I am not going to eat that. I have a job now. I'm going to eat meet every day, so they don't see the balance. So I'm interested because one example I'll give you is that when the pandemic happened, I suddenly felt the need to grow something in my mother's backyard, and she had only sweet potatoes. So I went to Google on what else we can plant, and as I'm talking to my mom about it, oh, she's like, oh, this is how you do it. And whatever, something that was taking me like days to do, she does it in a couple of hours because she has the practical knowledge. But somehow, when she went from rural living to being an educated woman, she left that behind her. So I'm really interested to see how we can make that reconnection, not just with the young people, but also from the older generation to associate environmental care with wealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that is very, very important. Like when we grow, we see the definition of growth very differently nowadays in a very unsustainable manner, and that is something which we have to change. Thank you so much. It has been such a wonderful discussion, listening to all your amazing stories and your inputs, and also ending up with such an interactive dialogue on good practices. So on this note, we would like to continue for days listening and learning from each other, but unfortunately it's an event and we can't sit in front of our computer for more than an hour and a half. It's tired. So we're so happy that all of you joined, and we would love to have a very warm concluding remark from our UN Office's Director, Mrs. Carolyn Hansen. She is the president of the NGCSW Committee on the Status of Women at the UN in Geneva as well. She is also the vice president of Women's Federation for World Peace International in overseeing program development through the 22 national chapters in Europe. And Mrs. Hansen guides the leadership and advocacy training of young women and men in the WFWPI UN internship program in Geneva, and remains active as the co-founder and program director of the GIA Model UN Interreligious Youth Council program. We don't have her in person, but we have a video with us from her.
Thank you to our young organizers, speakers, discussants, interpreters, technicians, each and every one very important for the success of this event. Thank you for this choice of theme. Also, thank you to the CSW this year for choosing a theme that is so easy to unite with, and something that so easily brings us together in partnership and shared ownership at this special time that seems to be so troubled. It touches each of us in our families and our homes, and it's something that builds that solidarity easily, something that propagates the sense, my success is your success. Only a few decades ago, there were no environmental studies. The concern for nature was not to be found in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but now, 50 years on, 50-year anniversary of the UN Environmental Program, there is a global slogan, Act for Nature, that is endearing for all of us. The Human Rights Council recognized less than 5 months ago, for the first time, that having a clean, healthy, safe, and sustainable environment is our human right. It is very important for our work to know this as a tool and a reference point for our partnership with governments and each other. On that day, October 21st, cheers filled the council chamber with not one government dissenting, which is rather rare at the Human Rights Council. It was also widely recognized by governments and UN experts that day how important civil society had been in bringing us to this point. Listening to the innovative and impactful projects that we heard described today, and the passion of the designers, why do we all feel so much hope? Is it their generous and empathetic motive that we heard described? Restoring human dignity, ending poverty, bridging divisions, practicing leadership for a future more hopeful world? Was it the seriousness of their methodology and their preparation and research? Or more, perhaps, the potential that each one of the problems that they addressed could also be addressed in our communities by us? If we do something similar, if we organize ourselves as they had done. The Women's Federation for World Peace co-founder Dr. Hak Jahan Moon has been very vocal about prioritizing protection of nature and civic responsibility related to it. Within 3 years, our local ecology-related initiatives have expanded to a signature program, which includes Giving for Good, into a broad prioritization of the environment and nature in our work. New partnerships are developing, and our members are fast becoming experts through their experiences. These environmental healing initiatives connects us to a global noble man's mandate to save our planet together. There are a growing number of tools available to us. We all know the SDGs, 9 of them related to the environment. There are resolutions and conventions, more and more alliances within the United Nations agency and programs, which are a very good sign. Just 1 week ago, at the Consultation Day of the CSW, celebrated in Geneva and Vienna by the NGO Committee on the Status of Women there, we launched a civil society declaration and advocacy resource package on global partnership for the human right to a clean, healthy, sustainable environment that our Women's Federation office in Geneva was very involved in drafting, and of course, together with our partners, other committee members there. This is all very important educational information for all of us. To be trustable partners, we need to meet our leaders where they are. We have to understand their mindset and to help them to understand ours. These give us measure and means to engage with our governments and public institutions. These tools are also for our own education and knowledge building. Being able to link and interconnect all the creative, successful initiatives is so very important to build that global awareness and appreciation of each other's good works, as well as the sense that we are solving these problems. We've seen this seriousness today in all of our presenters, in each of their remarkable initiatives and the success that they have brought to their communities. These are all models for us to learn by and build on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with such a warm concluding remark, I thank everybody who has been very active in preparing this event with us, our partners, WFWP Korea, the MIRE, the young supporters, and also the participants who have been very, very supportive to us, to our speakers, and have been engaging in very fruitful dialogue with us today. And it is a beginning that we see today to build bridges for the future, for such sustainable and healthy environment that we can create, both individually and us together as a collective society. On that note, I thank you all. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for supporting us. And we hope to see you soon in many places doing many wonderful things. And thank you. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Impressed.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.